As well as using our large data file here, contacts, for sorting, we're going to use it for exploring the other great tool within data manipulation, and that's filtering. If you have a lot of data, you don't want all of that data, you need to be able to filter some of that data away, and then you can deal with the actual relevant data that's left. Filtering in Excel requires the activation of the filter tool, and we do that by going to the same little icon, sort and filter, but in the drop down we choose filter. That then gives us these little drop down arrows at the top of each of our columns. With these little drop down arrows, if we choose one, let's go for the last name one, you can see we can actually sort within here, but then below there is where the filtering takes place. Now in the list, you will see one option for each of the unique values. And the simplest form of selection is to actually just remove the ticks. If I don't want some of these people, I can just remove their ticks. If there are a lot, then sometimes it's actually easier to choose the select all, so it deselects all, and then handpick the ones you do want. I've just chosen 4 surnames there, so when I say OK, that filter is applied and I only see those 4 surnames. Down in the status bar here, we see I've got 844 records out of the original 74,032. The row numbers remain the same, but they go blue, so that is your indication that the rows have been filtered, plus the filter icon gets a little filter on it. So instead of just being a drop-down arrow, it gets a filter with a drop-down arrow. So you know which column is having an effect on the filtering, which one is reducing the size of your record set. So in here, I've chosen a number of the surnames. So we're only filtering to see these 4 surnames. I could even then add in an additional filter. So perhaps going to the first name, remove all of them by saying select all, so that all the ticks go, and just choose a couple of these. And then my result set is filtered down even further. I'm now down to 20 records. Again, they stay blue, and I have 2 little icons in place to show which of the columns are doing the filtering. That's straightforward filtering, where you simply select from the values within the data. Let's bring all of those back and do the same with the last name. Let's bring all of those back. Now, no filtering is taking place. The row numbers are back to black. As well as being able to just simply select values that exist, we can come down to text filters and choose one of the comparison options. So equals, does not equal, begins with, ends with, contains, does not contain. Say I wanted all of the surnames that began with A, I could choose begins with and choose A. There is an option here for adding in an additional filter at the same time. So here we're choosing last name begins with A. Okay. And then all of these people have a surname beginning with A. There's nothing to stop me going back into there and saying begins with A or begins with B. And I could have everybody that begins with A and B. So we see Alvarez and Bennett. So we can see that that's working. Now, if I wanted a range, then I could clear this filter, come back into text filters and choose custom filter, because there's no between option here. And in here, what I can do is say is greater than or equal to A and is less than or equal to F. And that will give me everybody whose surname is greater than A, anybody whose surname begins with A effectively, or B, or C, or D, or E, because they're all greater than A, but less than or equal to F. Well, nobody's surname is actually just F, so it would be everybody up to the E's. Okay, and we see 15,292 records. So although, strictly speaking, it's not a between comparison filter, you can use it with text, in this case where we said more than. Have a look in there, custom, greater than or equal to A, but less than or equal to F. It's effectively between A and E. You'll find that those comparisons are slightly different. If we were to look at this field, for example, which is a number field, you see that we get a lot more. We get top 10, above average, below average, all the less than, more than, greater than. Even the between option here is available because we're dealing with numeric values. So the filter comparisons you get provided to you do differ depending on the data type of the actual column. But despite that, the same option exists for selecting manually, picking from the unique values within the list, or choosing one of the comparison options and then entering your values. All the ones with 3 dots require values. Don't forget also that filters compound. So we have a filter in place here on last name that is between A and E. If I then went to the customer ID and said customer ID is greater than 20,000, then that filter will be applied on top of the A to E filter. So we're now looking at customers whose surname begins between A and E, and their ID is greater than 20,000. And the numbers have dropped to 7,804. So all filters compound on top of each other to reduce the amount of data you've got then to work with to do whatever you wish to do. If at any point you want to remove all the filters, you don't need to go finding all the little icons with filters on. We can simply go back to Sort and Filter, choose the filter option here to effectively remove it, and that takes the little drop arrows off the top of each column and removes any filtering that is occurring, so all of your data is then returned back to you. And the row numbers are black instead of blue. That is your big indicator that the data is not filtered. So that's filtering, a very useful tool when you're dealing with large sets of data in Excel.